All right, I'm live. Yeah, James said he'll be here about 9:35 or so. He's got to put the kids to bed, things like that. So got to respect his family time. So as soon as he gets here, he'll be here and we'll start talking. No big deal. Like I said, chat's on. I threw a link in for Craig Timmons' channel. Craig, I was just looking, buddy. You got over 500,000 views, so you're doing pretty good. Craigie's a good friend of mine out in Ohio. There, he's got some nice videos on small engine work. So check him out. Let me get the pop-out chat. There we go. Yeah, so Marcus, welcome. I don't know if I've seen you before. I probably have. We got some regulars on here. Oh, Timmy Turner. Hello, Tim. How are you? CW Radio. Yeah, you know what? James has a cult following. It's just, I tell him he has to do voiceovers because if you're in a crappy mood and you put on a James Condon video where he's like, welcome back, you just get in that just cool mood. And, I love all his videos. And I tell you, for someone who's not trained at small engines and generators and all that stuff, he's learned most of it through YouTube. He said, I tell you, I give him a ton of credit. He's answered all my questions whenever I had a question about small engine. In fact, he's only about 45, 50 minutes from me, so it's not too bad. Just sold more. Which one did the tractor sell, Jason? Which one sold? I like the way you did the shine on that thing. That thing looked mint. That thing looked beautiful. Oil Tech, good morning. Down under, right? Oil Tech, I believe so. Hey, William, how you doing, brother? Yeah, James said he'll be on about 10 more minutes. Basically, what this is going to be, a lot of people, when I was on Steve's Small Engine Saloon the other night, we had some generator questions, and people had texted me and commented about generator questions. And we're trying to answer as many as we can tonight. If people want to put them in the chat, we'll do it that way. For the most part, it doesn't have to be all generator related, but really I'm trying to do it so James can get some exposure with his subscribers, those ones that really want to know stuff. Because a lot of times, we look at most of the comments and we try and answer all the comments, but sometimes you have other questions. One guy went on the other day and asked me, hey, Tim Freeman, how you doing, brother? And Mowers and Blowers, hello, Rich. Rich, I ordered the stickers from Vinyl Disorder. Anyone looking for stickers? A company called Vinyl Disorder. I usually use Sticker Mule. I have been, but this company, Vinyl Disorder, had a great deal. You had 50 stickers with shipping. Vinyl was about $23 and change, which sounded like a decent deal. I should be getting them shortly. I bought them for one of my subscribers and good friend, Simone, of Hooked on Classics over there in the UK. She's refurbing a 1972 Ford Cortina Mark III estate wagon, and I figured I'd help her out and get some stickers for her. So hopefully we'll do that. But check it out, Rich, if you want to post that link, Vinyl Disorder. Pretty cool website, cool product, and great prices. So I'll let you know how I make out with that. What's Pate saying here? 2 people come today, turned down 1,000. Really? He drove all the way out there and he didn't take it? Wow. Now you're fixed though on the 12, right? You got to get your 12. So, hey, I mean, it is what it is. Hi, Andrew. Sandy, hello. How are you? But yeah, you got to get what you got to get. I got so much stuff here, Jason. I was always tempted to call you and say, you know what, Jay, bring me in Dingo and just pick up some of these mowers I got and just take them. A couple of Toros, nice errands. I just don't have the time. You could put the polish on them and make some money. Hey, there's Steve. How you doing, brother? We're talking the other night. We had a question on Steve's stream where a guy, Mr. Lambert, I think his name was asking about what he called an amplifier box on a generator. And hey, Boulaquette, how are you down there in Louisiana? How's things going? That's Cajun Coin Hunter for those that don't know. About this little amplifier box, and basically it was the module with the diode in it so that your oil. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's anyone who doesn't know. Oh, hold on. Let me get on the other. Where is it? Anyone who doesn't know Andrew, Simply Small Engine, he's out in the Nevada desert doing small engine repair out there. Check out his channel, Simply Small Engine Repair. Again, thank you, Andrew. and Steve's lovely wife April found that amplifier box on eBay, I think it was, or Amazon for. Oh, Mick's here too. Hey, Mick, how are you, brother? Found that box on Amazon, and it was pretty inexpensive. But the guy was wondering what it actually does. It's more like a timer module with a diode to make it so that the current only goes one direction. So after about 3 or 4 seconds, if it doesn't sense oil pressure, shuts the engine off. So I hope that helped him. But a guy called me, actually emailed me today, and he was asking about Arizona. Does I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're what, about 10 minutes from Vegas? You said so. You're close to Vegas. I know that. Called me up or texted me or whatever it was and said, why do you have to flash a generator? So I want James to do the technically correct answer. I thought I gave him what I thought was the right answer, but we'll see. I know why you flash them if if there's no residual magnetism and it won't charge and all that stuff. But I'll let James answer it. He should be there shortly. Mick, yeah, you must be at work, right, Mick? You must be on the rails. But yeah, like I said, 9:30. So James should be here any minute. He told me around 9:35-ish. So, should be here shortly. But like I said, this one, not limited to generator questions, but if anyone does have a generator question, anything regarding, especially in light of, we had this storm Henri that came through here over the weekend. It fizzled out, though. It was more of just a rainstorm, but, it did some damage to some areas, but not much here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, busy working. Absolutely. Hitting the rails. Hey, Jeff Skews. Hello, Jeff. Oh, who else we got here? I think I said hello to everybody, if I'm not mistaken. Let me scroll back up. We got Sandy and Steve and William and Pate's, Oil Tech. Oil Tech, you're down under, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think you're New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. Oil Tech, I think he's New Zealand. Oh, my good friend Matt Olson, Dr. Matt Olson today, visit his channel too, Matthew Olson. He sent a saw to Buck and Billy Ray. Everyone knows Buck and Billy Ray if you're into chainsaws. Huge, huge channel. He actually sent him a modified 288 Husqvarna with custom covers, and he actually did a comparison on them. So pretty cool. Chad Brooks, hello. Chad Small Engines, Memphis, welcome. Ray, hello, Ray McCarty, how are you? Hey, Stella, how are you, my friend? Paul Calabrese, good, yeah. He's UK. Okay, Oil Tech UK. All right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, morning, because 5 hours. Oh, I appreciate you being here, Oil Tech, because it's 2:30 in the morning your time. So I do appreciate that. Oh, no kidding. Bruce is up there too. Mick. Oh, that's great. Yeah, like I said, tonight, right now, I'm going to have just me and James in there because I want to get the questions. We'll see how it goes. I may send some links out to a couple of the guys, but I know people have asked me and they've commented and said, Kevin, a lot of your lives are just banter. You're not really talking about small engines and stuff like that. So we're going to make this, a technical question Q&A. James will be here. He's taking his time out of his busy schedule. So, we're going to try and get anything answered that you guys want answered regarding generators. So, hopefully we will. James Lawnmower Man. Hello, James. Good evening to you. Junkyard. Good evening. And Stella, the other night when we were talking about LLCs and stuff like that, I hope you didn't take it the wrong way. I didn't mean to sound pissy with you. I just wanted to, this is what I was hearing from the guy that I know who's a labor, tax accountant. He was talking about what to do in LLC versus sole proprietorship and things like that. And, liability. He was just saying protection and stuff like that. But hope all is well with you, Stella. Hope the weather's good. Hope everything's good. Oh, let's see. Yeah, Jim should be here any minute. We'll see. Hopefully we'll see him in the basement. We'll just pop him up. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was going to test out a new microphone to see how it went. Mick, I got your Mick garb on. Henry should be getting his this week, so we'll be part of an elite few that have the Mix Mowers hats. So check my email. Which email? I got too many emails. I got like 7 emails. I still have AOL. A lot of people saying AOL. I still have AOL, but I have the Gmail too. I think, this one here, the where is it? Right there. The Ken Small Engines at Gmail. What do we got? Gmail. Let's see what we got here. I don't see anything, Stella. Huh. Let's see. Ooh, YouTube just said some of my videos are suitable for advertisers. It's funny when you do the monetization, sometimes YouTube doesn't monetize it. It says hold for review. And I'm like, what is that all about? So they just approve some of my videos. That's cool. Yeah, because my videos are good. They're okay for kids and everything. I don't put for kids, but they're okay for that. Oh, your buddy Tony's on the Tony with his cap. There you go. Yeah, Tony won the cap. That's your mate there. Yep, absolutely. Lawnmower Detective Dave, how are you? Good evening to you. Let's see. And like I said, once James comes up, we'll start the Q&A. Any questions he has. I've got a couple for him from some viewers, and I will ask him that. But feel free. Like I said, James, he's not only the generator guy, he's a small engine guy too. I mean, he does everything. Campers, he's had some videos on his, he's got a nice camper, I think it's Winnebago. Oh, speak of the devil. Let me see if he's coming on here. Bam. What's going on, my friend?
How you doing, Ken?
Good. Oh, you sound really good.
Yeah, I'm trying something new today, so I wasn't too sure how it would go, but we'll see.
And I thank you for coming up. I know you got a busy schedule.
Yeah, I was a little crazy tonight. I literally just got home. It's a long day.
Yeah, cool. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm sure the viewers do too. A couple questions that I had from the viewers. I'll start out with that. One guy asked me today, why do you have to reflash, and what is reflashing when it comes to a generator?
Yeah, well, I will say a lot of the newer generators that have AVRs, you shouldn't have to flash.
That AVR is?
Automatic voltage regulator.
For those that don't.
Yeah, sorry. Let me back up a bit. So the older generators, a lot of them don't have automatic voltage regulators. So that means if you run your engine really fast, you get more voltage. And if the engine's running slow, you get less voltage. But also, if you put a load on it, the voltage will sag, and so will the engine speed a bit. And nothing will happen to kind of automatically bring that voltage back up. So the newer ones have a voltage regulator which monitors the voltage output of your generator, and when it starts to drop, it'll actually increase the magnetism in the rotor to induce more voltage out of the stator.
What does that look like, James? Is that a separate part of something? I know what the AVR is and what that looks like. Is the regulator another box located somewhere?
The regulator, no. It's that banana-looking thing that's down in the generator head.
I thought that was the AVR, though.
Yeah, sorry. The regulator.
Okay, you were saying what's different about this new stuff you're talking about?
Yeah, so the regulator is just a bridge rectifier.
Okay.
And I think there's a resistor in there, so it might kind of clip the current. So it kind of regulates, but it's really doing it not in a very smart way. So the ones that have the automatic voltage regulator, which is almost all of them nowadays, those rotors also have small permanent magnets. So it's really impossible for it to lose magnetism.
Okay.
But there are other things that could cause the problem. Like if you hook up the brushes backwards, so it's the positive and negative, the brushes on the rotor get fed with DC power. If you hook them up backwards, then it's going to try to flip the poles on the rotor.
Okay.
And when it tries to do that, it's going to basically wipe out the magnetism and nothing's going to happen. It's going to cancel out. So I've seen that before, but
I've heard, James, that if you have say a drill, or say you're running a hand drill,
yep,
and you keep it running, your finger on the trigger, and shut off the generator and let it run for a second until it stops, but the generator's off, you can pull any residual magnetism out and have to reflash. Is that true?
I've heard the same. Yeah, and I've picked up generators that have bad AVRs or bad regulators, and they went bad while the generator was running.
Oh, okay.
So the generator kept running with minimal magnetism, and actually just having that happen while there's a load on the generator and then continually running the generator with the power head powered down can definitely cause an issue like that.
Okay.
I think the older ones that don't have the automatic voltage regulators, or even the brushless ones. Those are very simple as well. Those can definitely suffer from that type of issue. And it's hard to get back. I actually had one, the power head tested well. I flashed it. I even applied 12 volts to it to get the power, to get the magnetism restored. And when I connected everything back up, the power still didn't come on. So I kind of set that one aside. I put a new power head on that generator. And later I circled back, actually put the power head on another machine. And I had to flash it with the drill a good 10 times.
Wow.
Before
now,
everything.
Would you prefer doing it that way versus a small, say a 9 or 10 volt battery and just going into the outlet, or what?
It's a lot easier to go to the outlet. It's faster, and a lot of people, I think, would prefer that.
And you have to do it while it's running, correct? Or no? When you reflash?
That's a good question. I've never tried it the other way around, but I mean, the drill, when you hold the trigger down on the drill and you spin it, it's basically a little generator. You're sending a little bit of voltage into the stator. That's creating a little bit of magnetism, and what you're trying to do is basically just excite things so that you can get like an amplification effect. And it happens really quick. Like once you kind of cross that threshold of a few volts, it'll just take off. And
when I did a 12 volt battery one time on a Generac, this guy had gone to a Generac dealer, and don't ask me why, but the dealer's like, we can't fix it, blah, 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 blah. So he brings it to my house, and he spent $300 at this dealer, and it still wasn't generating. All I did, I had an old 12 volt battery, which still had 12 volts, but really no amps because it was so old. I just, while it was running, I put it into the outlet, and you get that, you get that surge real quick, and that's what scared me, because oh crap, I fried something. But boom, all of a sudden, it had full power on the meter.
Yeah, and that's something I know I've seen people say they do that too, and that actually scares me. I would never personally put a 12 volt battery in the AC outlet, because you can excite the generator, but if it comes to life and you leave that battery connected, you're going to be sending 120 volts AC into a 12 volt battery. that could get messy quick.
What is William saying here, James? What's the most you ever give for a used generator?
Pay?
Yeah,
I think it depends a lot on the generator. So, the brand also, I mean, Generacs are really easy to sell. So I'll pay more for a Generac. I wouldn't say they're necessarily better. The ones that I work on, they're pretty much the same. The Generac versus the Champion versus the Duramax, they all have the same Honda clone on it, most likely from the same factory, the same power head. The big differences are branding and maybe just little customizations that manufacturers put on the units and part support. Generac's really good at supporting it. Their stuff, almost any other generator you buy, it breaks, you're kind of on your own. And you can find parts, but there's usually not a parts diagram. So I guess to get back to the original question, as far as what do I pay, if it's a easy to sell generator, I'll pay anywhere between $100 and $200 if it's a carburetor issue, or if I think it's a carburetor issue.
What do you do at the place, though, Jim? If you go to a customer and William's asking, do you ever do any testing at the customer? And I would probably say no, because you don't want to let it lead on that you may know something, right?
Yeah, I do minimal. And people give me a hard time, like, why didn't you test? Why did you pay that much if you didn't try starting it? And a lot of times they're advertised as not running. So if I get there and I get it to run, now the price is going to go up. And that has happened. Actually, there was a Generac, I think I did air the video. It was advertised at a decent price for what it was, supposedly non-running. And I got there, and for some brilliant reason, I decided to pull the cord and try to start it. And it started right up. And it actually sounded good. So the guy said to me, he's like, I should ask for more money. And he didn't. He stayed to the price he was asking, but it definitely made him think twice about selling it once it started like that. So, I'll usually pull it slowly, make sure there's compression, see if there's any missing parts. Aside from that, that's about all I'll do.
Now, Pates is asking if you see a generator with nothing wrong with it in an ad, but it's a good price. Is that something you consider as well?
Yeah.
I mean, meaning, are you a flipper in that regard?
Yeah, I will. I've done that. I don't do it as often, but I actually picked up a Generac GP7500E. I think it had like 5 hours on it.
Wow.
Nothing wrong with it. The guy listed it for $300, so I bought it. You know, that generator's worth twice that.
Pate's just sold the 7500E for $1,200. I mean, that's Long Island pricing, though. I mean, he can get it.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, I mean, even around here, the prices got nuts last weekend.
Oh yeah, you said
and
you
they
sold
still
out,
are.
right?
What's that?
Did you sell out? Do you have anything left, or?
I sold everything in one day. 11 generators.
And nobody had to use it.
No.
Yeah, because you didn't lose power, right?
No, it was a non-event, the storm. There was nothing. But I'm not complaining because I was kind of running out of space, and the generator market was in the toilet. I couldn't sell them for what I thought they were worth, and I couldn't even sell them for a discount. There was one, actually, the one you gave me that you and Jason found for free.
Yep.
I put a new piston in it, connecting rod, seals, all that stuff, spent a ton of time on it. And I think I had it listed for $280 before the storm for about 2 weeks. Nobody wanted it.
Wow.
And once the storm hit, things started going crazy.
There's a viewer question there. What do you think about Briggs and Stratton generators? Well, let me ask you this, though. Briggs and Stratton per se, who makes the power heads, though, James? Is that...
Well, yeah, I guess on like the storm responder era ones, the ones that are probably like 10 years old now, there's two different types of power heads. One, I think, was made in the US. That's the one without the AVR, and that's what I normally see on them. But I also see ones with an AVR, and I don't know for sure, but I think those are probably made overseas.
Now, without the AVR, though, would that mean it's a one with a condenser, an inverter, or what's the difference between non-AVR, AVR? What actually does that regulation?
Right. I mean, if it's a generator with brushes, which most are, then it's either going to have an AVR or not have an AVR. And there's really, honestly, I don't know why they would even make one without an AVR these days, because they're so cheap to make. But Briggs, I think, is one of the last ones, at least as of 10 years ago, that was still making them without an AVR. Actually, PowerMate too. Those square-looking generator heads, those do not have AVRs either. They're just plain, simple generator.
Aren't those the ones with the caps in it, though? Or no?
Brushless has the big capacitors.
All right.
Yeah.
What was the one you showed me, James? You had a brush pack with the diodes on top. What's that? Is that like
that is from a storm responder? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all integrated into the brushes for some reason.
That's the rectifier on top, correct? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
The Wheatstone Bridge, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, too, I was working on an older Briggs. It was actually Craftsman branded, but it was a Briggs, exactly like you'd see on a storm responder, just rebranded. And that one had an AVR. So it's something, at one point it had an oil sensor, it had an AVR. And then at some point, kind of in the 2007 to 2011 range, they got rid of the AVR. They got rid of the oil sensor, and I think that's coming back to haunt them. They've since changed that, but they're also using Honda clones too on their stuff now. So I was actually looking on my bench yesterday. I was gathering some parts for someone, and I had a Briggs gasket, OEM Briggs, says right on it.
Head gasket or what kind of gasket?
No, it was a valve cover gasket.
Oh, okay.
That's the type of thing. I never even thought to look. I just assumed Briggs, it's made here. Not anymore.
All right, next question we got. What's the benefit of propane over gasoline one? Well, I'll start and answer my feeling. With propane or natural gas or whatever it's powered, you never have to clean it. It doesn't have hydrocarbons. It doesn't build up. It doesn't go funky in the carburetor and get all messy and everything. And it's cleaner. And most people that I know that have whole house generators have them plugged into usually either natural gas or a propane tank. I mean, what are your thoughts, James?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely cleaner and in theory, less maintenance. So from that point of view, they're good. You don't have to worry about the fuel going bad. But if the regulator goes bad,
Yeah. Bucks.
yeah, I mean, you could spend $20 to get a clone carb and replace yours that got ate out by the ethanol, or you could spend $300 or $400 on a regulator, depending upon what generator you have. So, I didn't know that until recently, and when I saw the price of a propane regulator, and great, some of them are cheaper. Like you can go on eBay and you can definitely find one for $100, I would say. But the point is, that's still 5 Honda clone carburetors. So
didn't you do a video on one, Jim, where you rebuilt a regulator or took it apart and put it back, the diaphragm or something, and actually got it running?
yeah, I took it apart and put it back together. There's no rebuild kit. So I didn't think it was going to go back together, or if it did go back together, I figured it would leak. And thankfully it didn't. Otherwise, I'd have to convert it to gas or get a conversion kit and make some silly contraption to get it rigged into the one that was meant to run on a propane, natively, but just the part was way too expensive, more than the generator was worth.
This next question, I've got a comment about that. Somebody had questioned me and said, "Oh, I heard about a guy who had a Chinese, Champion or whatever generator, and it burned down his house because it put out like 4,000 volts." Da da da. Jim, set the record straight on the max voltage a generator, the max it could ever put out.
Yeah, the max is 340 volts on the 240 volt outlet. I have never seen one do more. It's not to say it couldn't. If the governor became disconnected and the AVR malfunctioned at the same time, that could happen. And most portable generators, they don't have any voltage protection. So if it does that, if you don't notice the problem, it's just going to keep going until something does burn. The only generator I've ever seen in kind of the size that I'm working on with voltage protection is actually those yellow Champions I worked on that were pulled from the junkyard. One of them actually was shutting down. It was acting like the oil sensor was tripping, but it wasn't. Actually, it sensed the AVR was malfunctioning. It was putting out too much voltage, and it was shutting down the engine.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you too about what that guy was calling the module, that little diode box or whatever for the oil sentry. Electronically, Jim, can you explain? I know it's a delay sequence or something like that, but can you explain that a little better for the viewers?
Yeah, it is a bit of a black box. That drove me crazy trying to figure it out. I think it's potted. I've never tried opening one. I was just trying to figure out what makes them tick, because I had at one point a Briggs that had a low oil module like that, discontinued part. So I was wondering, can I put a Honda one in, or do I just omit it? And I mean, I found a replacement for that, so that worked out. But I did learn a few things. I think most people understand that it provides a delay. That's probably the most important thing, because when the oil is flying around the engine, the switch is going to intermittently close and kill spark. And as soon as the engine starts slowing down, that oil is going to start pooling again, and now the switch will be happy. So you could get a situation where it's just shutting down, but not completely getting there and turning back on. And it could keep doing that. It's going to send terrible surges, potentially for hours, doing that. So the module provides a delay. And then once it sees, say, 5 seconds without oil signal from the switch inside the engine, it'll ground out the coil and keep it grounded out until the engine stops. Now, the cool thing, at least that I think is cool, is that I was wondering, okay, this module, it has chips in it. It has diodes.
I'm trying to understand the circuitry. I looked at the wiring diagrams that they provide, and I still don't get. I see the diode and I see the resistor, and I'm like, yeah, but what does it do? How does it do it?
Right, and that's I haven't studied it close enough to explain the electronics, the circuitry, but there's a few things I took out of it. And I guess the first is that I was like, all right, these circuits are in here. How are they getting power to do what it's doing?
Exactly.
And that for a long time didn't make sense to me that it could run these circuits somehow, but it's grounding out the coil. So it's connected to the ignition coil, the primary. And if you think about it, the coil, it's a generator, right? You get the magnet on the flywheel, it flies around, passes the coil, and that sends the spark to the plug on the secondary. But the primary also creates voltage, and that's connected to this module. That's how it gets its power.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and then when the module kills the engine, it's actually grounding out through the module, not the switch.
Okay.
Because the switch is just a magnetic reed switch, and it will blow if you try to pass any significant
Current through it.
current.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I see Lenny's comment. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Lenny or Linnea. One thing I'd like to say about generator safety is anyone that asks me, it's like safety switches on a mower. I will not defeat them. But when you're doing a generator, especially when you're hooking it up, please don't just plug it into your dryer outlet and backfeed your whole panel and get the guy electrocuted on the pole, or at least have a little jolt for him. One thing that I tell my customers is you may not need to hire a certified electrician to do the work, but you at least want to go through your town and have the town inspector approve it so that you're safe and your house won't burn down and your insurance will pay if anything happens. You got to go by the rules. Every town and city is different, but like I said, you could do the work yourself. A lot of people are qualified to hook up a transfer switch, but I see too many people that put a 240-volt outlet, like for their dryer, outside their house and just plug it in with whatever cord they find at Home Depot.
Yeah, and that is a big problem. So I today just released another generator cord video telling people to stop making their own cords, basically. And it's not to say that you can't make a good cord, but I guess what it does is allows people to do it wrong.
Yep.
And I mean, a cord here, I picked this up recently. I thought it was a good cord. It has actually this one's an L14-20, has the tab pointing out. So I thought we were all good. And then I looked at the other end of the cord. It has the same thing. It's supposed to be, if you plug this into your generator, this is basically live. So they were using this cord to backfeed something in their house. And yeah, that's not good. And it's more than just backfeeding, because a lot of generators have a bonded neutral or a floating neutral. And when you hook it up to your house, you need to know what yours is, because if you have a floating neutral, a bonded neutral, you actually have two neutrals now in your system, and it's a greater risk of getting electrocuted. So you need to keep that in mind. And backfeeding, that's actually how I do my house, but I have an interlock. So there's a mechanical mechanism there which makes it legal that you cannot turn on the power in to your house without mechanically moving something and shutting the main breaker off first. And then once you do that, it allows you to feed your panel.
Now, that was part of your transfer switch mechanism, or?
I have just a fuse box.
Okay.
But if you look at the type of fuse box you have, and every state's different, every region's different, so it may not be allowed in your area, but in New York anyway, the way they let you do it is you find your exact fuse panel. You can go to a site and buy an interlock. And the way it works is you have to put the fuse, that's the circuit breaker that's backfeeding, in the top right position, and the main on-off is at the top. So you mechanically have to slide something up, and before you can slide it up, you have to shut the main breaker off.
Oh, okay.
And then it allows you to backfeed. Like it's almost like mechanically it cannot allow you to mess it up.
It's like a lockout tagout, which is preventing you from doing anything stupid.
Right, and it's like a transfer switch. You can only choose the power from one spot. That's what it's forcing you to do.
Now, Lawnmower Lady Stella, thank you for the comment here. Jim, why don't you talk about, and Stella is talking about inverters versus the other types of generators, and better for electronics and all that. Can you get in the differences between an inverter type and the other?
Yeah, absolutely. The inverter creates clean power. It actually creates AC power, like high frequency, high voltage AC, three phase.
Now, full sine wave, correct? Or still half wave?
Yeah, it's a full sine wave. I guess I'm backing up probably too far, but the generator in the inverter, it has a generator a lot like any other generator, except it's all permanent magnets. There's no electromagnet that needs to power up. Literally, you can take an inverter and just spin the engine, pull it over, and you're going to get power coming out of the stator. There's really nothing there. It's just a simple permanent magnet setup. But the output before the inverter from the generator is three-phase AC. It gets rectified to DC and fed into an inverter, which makes like perfectly clean AC voltage, 120 volts, 60 hertz. And because of that, the engine actually doesn't have to run at full speed because the inverter is doing all that work. So it'll run slower, it'll run quieter, it'll save gas, the engine will last longer. I mean, there's so many reasons why an inverter is better. I think the only thing that's not better about it is if the inverter blows, then it's pretty much cost prohibitive to fix. And it's probably not that much different on a generator. The generator head goes, you're not going to fix that.
I see a lot of people going for the Honda EU3000i. They're like, it's like the most popular small inverter generator anywhere. Everybody's got one.
Yeah. I use an EU 6500 for my house, and I actually have a Yamaha EF 2000, a smaller one for recreation. So I like the inverters quite a bit.
Mhm.
Definitely my first choice. Now, as far as the others go, they're just dirtier power, and they have to run at full speed, 3,600 RPM.
Mm-hmm.
They burn more gas, they make more noise, the engines wear out sooner, and of course the power is dirtier. So ones with the AVR are probably the cleanest non-inverter generators, and then you get the ones without the AVR, and then you have the brushless, which are probably the dirtiest power, but that's kind of a blanket statement. I mean, you could have a brushed generator that's terrible and a brushless one that's really good. It's somewhat depends.
Yeah, we'll say our prayers for you, Stanley. Hope your kid's better, my friend. Another question I had, though, James, is you talk about the inverter and clean versus dirty power waves, all that stuff. Is there anything, if a customer has a generator, say it's a Generac 7500E, great generator, and says, yeah, but you know what, I have computers and stuff like that. Is there any magic black box that could be plugged in to the output of the generator to give you protection, if you will, against dirty power? Or is there anything that exists like that?
I'm sure there is. I've seen some people do some crazy things to try to clean up non-inverter generators.
What really kills it, though,
Yeah.
James? I mean, you hear about surge protection, lightning, things like that, but in a non-inverter, what would the dirty power actually destroy or hurt in a precision electronic device?
It depends. If it's the frequency that's off, it's going to damage probably motors.
Because it's going to heat up, right?
Yeah. If the voltage is off, it's going to stress out different components until something isn't happy. So, the voltage, an AVR takes care of a lot of the voltage problems, but I've seen when AVRs fail, they fail full power. I mean, that's actually scary. I'd rather have a brushless or a simple bridge rectifier one that I've never seen do that. Yeah, the power is not as clean, but when it fails, it doesn't go crazy. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I guess if you don't have an inverter, the frequency is going to vary. The voltage is going to vary based on load, or maybe it's just set wrong. I pick up generators all the time. They're running too fast. They're running too slow. I picked up one the other day, 7 hours on it, and I think the engine was running at 63 hertz, which isn't bad. It's probably not going to ruin anything, but it could be better. And that's just the voltage in the hertz. I mean, the actual sine wave itself could have issues and breaks and flat spots in it, noise.
Now, one of the viewers, Paul, was saying you could buy line conditioners. What's a line conditioner?
Yeah, I need to do more research on that, but I thought you could pass it through a transformer or a capacitor or something to help smooth it out. But I have not done enough research on that to say.
Okay, well, we'll have that for another day. Junkyard, I like my old Miller Blue Star welder, a 4-pole generator head, and it runs 1800 for the generator. Yeah, let me ask you about that, James. If you got 1800, that's only 30 hertz, right? Technically?
No, the way they do it, like in my RV, I have an Onan. It runs at
Oh, that
1800.
green monster that we all hate that's located where you can't get to anything?
Yeah, you definitely can't get to it. I mean, if I ever had to service that, I'd have to get a forklift to get
I
it
was
out.
asked to do a fuel filter in one of those, and I looked at it and I go, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I paid someone to do the spark plugs. I took a look at it. I'm like, I can't get to them.
Yeah, those that don't know, these generators are hanging from like a metal angle iron cradle underneath the side of a camper, and you can't reach anything. And it doesn't just slide out. It's a nightmare to work on.
It is, yeah. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I've never checked the engine speed or the voltage on that generator. I probably should. I know, right? If
There's
it's running well.
There's a next video. There you go.
I know. I will. But
all right, so explain the 1800 versus 36 and why 1800 can do the same.
Most generators that are not inverters, or even inverters, but they're direct drive. They're connected right to the crankshaft. So if you want to get 60 hertz, the engine has to spin 60 times a second. The Onan actually has a belt, I believe. So the engine, and pulleys. So one pulley is twice as big as the other.
Yeah.
So the engine can spin at half the speed, but it's still turning the generator at 3,600 RPM.
Oh, never realized that. Interesting.
And it's a lot quieter. I'm always kind of jealous. Like whenever I start an engine that I don't know anything about, I'll back the speed off. I'll back the governor spring off a bit, just in case. And a lot of times when they start up, they're like at 48 or 50 hertz. And it is so much quieter to listen to that than cranking it up to 60 hertz. So, I'd say anyone over there in Europe where you're on 50 hertz, their generators, even if they're not inverters, they must run so much more pleasant. The noise is just a big difference.
Sure. All right, Jim, someone's asking about your life story here. How'd you get into generators?
Yep. That's a good question. I think the RV was one of the first ones. It was just something I documented on YouTube because I couldn't find any information on the problem online, and it drove me nuts for 2 years.
That was the Onan one, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I brought it to a few places. It was a very intermittent problem. So, that was something I wanted to document. And I think as well, at a separate time later, my neighbor actually threw away a generator, and my son found it and said, "Dad, can we bring it home?" So I brought it home. We took it apart, figured out the stator had melted down, and we got to the rotor, and I could not figure out how to get that thing off. Like, I could not get the rotor off. I'm beating it, hitting it. I mean, the generator head was dead, so I didn't care if I saved that rotor. I was just hitting it as hard as I could with anything, and it wouldn't budge. So that kind of got me interested in, okay, why did the stator go bad? How do I get the rotor off? I took that engine apart just to learn. And, at that time I wasn't fixing engines. So it was really just a learning experience. And I think, I saw actually the first thing I actually bought was a tractor. Someone put a $20, I think it was an LT1000 for sale, non-running, mouse infested. And I'm like, God, $20, I'll buy it. Like, again, what could go wrong? Worst case, I learned something and it's still trash. So I picked that up and actually got it fully. I wouldn't say like new, but it was running quite well. And I was giving tractor rides around the yard, and everything was good with it. So that one I think really sealed the deal as far as kind of taking it to the next step and just buying small engines and trying to fix them. And generators interested me just because of their nature, electricity and engines. It's a great combination.
Yeah,
So
people ask me if you're an electronic technician. I said, Jim's an IT
no.
guy. He's not an
Yeah,
electronic
I'm IT.
technician.
I write a lot of SQL all day long. So if you know what that is, then you're probably in IT.
Yep. Brandon, BS Small Legends, welcome, Brandon. Appreciate you from Texas. Talking about capacitors. In fact, one of the first generators I was working on after I met Jim was what the heck was it? A McCulloch, I think it was. And the capacitor, we were looking it up, and I had the same exact questions that you guys have. And I had those questions for Jim where I was like, well, what's the farad? Was it not is it micro or what's the farad?
Was it God, I'm drawing a blank. Microfarad, was it?
Farad. What is it? What's mu? Is it microfarad or?
I'm gonna have to Google that one
because I get yelled at all the time if I say the wrong word. If I say micro, it's supposed to be milli or whatever. And anyway, but what happened was I looked at the rating and I actually texted Jim, and I found the capacitor on eBay, but it was literally $78, and I'm like, it's a capacitor, But the guy knew what he had. Guys like Randy's Engine Repair and these other guys, they know you're not going to get it anywhere else. But Jim, you told me a good story where you went to a local generator rebuild shop or something like that, and the guy had cheap capacitors and was just selling you like nickel dime stuff.
Well, yeah, and actually, it's UF. I think that's
UF. Yeah, mu, right? Yeah, mu.
Yeah. Sorry,
yep.
Looks like a U, but yeah. Actually, I went to there's a few places I went actually because it is just a capacitor. You could actually use an HVAC capacitor if you wanted to.
But you got to have the one with, is it 2 instead of 3 tabs? Is that because you don't want to start a capacitor? You don't
want a starter one. You could probably use a dual one, but ideally you'd get a run capacitor.
Yeah. And the difference between the two, though, people don't realize a startup capacitor is only good for that initial to start it up. You need a run capacitor that stays.
Exactly. Yeah. So you want to, if you need a new capacitor, you just need to get one with the same microfarad rating, and preferably
or higher, right? Is that the rule? Or higher?
No. Okay. The farad rating has to be the same. Some people, even with a new capacitor, still complain that the voltage is off. In that case, I'd say maybe try one a little higher or a little lower, but you're going to be guessing kind of, how to correct it.
There's no adjustment, right? The cap sets it. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, it's the cap. So, but you can use a run capacitor. And I went to an electric motor shop that rewinds electric motors. Really cool place. It's over 100 years old. And I was so excited to walk in there. I thought for sure they would rewind stators, and they just smiled and said, "No, we don't touch generators." I'm like, "Yeah, nobody does." But they do have a good capacitor supply. So the big thing is match the microfarad rating. There's also a voltage rating, and I think there's some other rating on there. So, look into it a bit. But the most important is the microfarad. Some people say too, like the run capacitors and HVAC systems, I think they're oil filled, and of course will catch fire if they blow. So that's something in generators. A lot of them are not oil filled, but some are. It's safer if you get one that's not, but just something to think about. It's really
the other ones are the paper wrapped ones, right?
Yeah,
the foil wrapped.
Yeah. And the size is a big deal. Like whatever one you buy, it's got to physically fit, and that can be an issue too.
Yeah, cool. Let's see. What else do we have here? Any other questions? Let me take a look. I meant to ask you too. One guy, did you see on your video, some guy was like trolling you with the, you didn't tell you got the cord for free. And I emailed him, or I commented back in your video, and then he removed it. Because I said to him, I said, if you watch the whole, and I tell people this, if you watch the whole video, at the end of the video, you thank the company for sending you the sample to try. So this guy obviously didn't watch the end of the video, and he started going at you saying, you're not thanking the people for giving you free stuff. You just want free stuff. And I'm like, watch the whole video. And then after I commented, he erased it. He took it out. So I took my comment.
That's good. At least he did it. I mean, there's always people like that. They skip parts, and that's fine. I skip parts too all the time. And you're just trying to find information out. And, that video, for me, someone's like, too, why don't you load test it? And I'm like, it's not, I've never seen, I don't know. There's lots of valid points, but I guess for me, it was a generator cord. And the point I was trying to get across to people was, don't make your own cord unless you know what you're doing. Buy one that's made. And, most pre-made cords, they are pretty good.
Mm-hmm. What was the comment? Someone made a comment about it's not waterproof or something about waterproof cords. What was all that?
Yeah, that was my thing too. And I guess I probably didn't get the point across, but one company that I don't want to say the name of it, a very name brand company, that's the one I've been using for years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the cords are not waterproof. And of course, if you use them in wet conditions, it's dangerous. Be careful. But this one company didn't have the outdoor rating on their cord, which I thought was weird because they're a good company. And in the description of their product, it also said that you really shouldn't be using it in wet environments, that it's not a weatherproof or waterproof cord, and that to me, it just seems like a bunch of lawyers talking.
Yeah.
And I'm sure their cord is just as good, but it more has to do with the fact that the company doesn't even say that you can use it outdoors. They've kind of distanced themselves from it. So that made me a little bit uneasy seeing that. But, all cords they all have to be 10 gauge. They all have to have the same type of plug. Some are black, some are yellow. The yellow color actually is much better if you have it on a semi-permanent installation like my RV. I could easily run that over with the lawnmower. So, there's things to think about as well as like cord length.
Mm-hmm.
The longer it is, the less voltage you have in your house. So if you only need a 10-foot cord, don't buy a 50-foot cord.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things like that, which I didn't completely cover. It was just a short little clip.
Now you said 10 gauge. Is that a minimum for like UL or something, or what's the 10 gauge?
For a generator cord, 10 gauge is the amount of current, the amount of amps that the cord is rated for.
Okay. Because dryer cords are usually 10 gauge, like the 220 dryer cords.
Right, and dryers are also 30 amps at 240 volts, so it makes sense that it's the same. Okay. But yeah, if you get a lower gauge cord, it's not going to hurt anything. And in fact, if you want, what's that?
It'll heat up, though. No.
If you go thinner, you don't want to go thinner. But I'm saying you can go lower gauge cord, thicker wire.
Oh, okay, I got
which isn't going to hurt anything. And in fact, if you want a really long cord, like one that's say 100 feet long, then you can't use 10 gauge. You have to start dropping the gauge. And
Generac I think has a chart showing the distance from your house to the generator, so forth, what gauge versus what length and all that.
Yeah, Home Depot used to have a really good chart like that too for extension cords. It would say if you have this gauge cord, you can pull whatever 20 amps for 25 feet, maybe 15 amps at 50 feet, and it lays it all out.
It looks like Bruce makes his own cords. Well, Bruce, you're old as dirt, Bruce, so you have all the experience, so you'll know what's good and what's bad.
Bruce is qualified, though. That's the difference.
Absolutely. Well, that was his business, right? Power. That's what he did. Now, one guy was asking about military diesel generators.
I have not done any diesel or military. That's something I've been looking into. And I thought actually someone was going to send me their diesel boat generator this summer, which I told him I'll be happy to work on it, but I'm not a diesel mechanic. I think that would be more a Jason project. But, I think he was just looking more for someone to go through it, make sure the engine speed was good, change the oil, change the filters, just make sure there was nothing obviously wrong with it, because it's something that this person would have depended on, in a boat in the middle of the ocean. So it's pretty important that it works.
And one thing I wanted to talk about to our viewers as well is I've been turned on to the kill a watt meter for years now, and I know you feature it in all your videos when you have the generator. And people, if you get a Harbor Freight coupon, you can get the thing for under $20, and it'll tell you the wattage, the voltage. It's a perfect tool for a small engine mechanic that's going to be working on generators. But to your point before, James, if you don't have an AVR with a pot or a way to adjust, I mean, you can adjust frequency, of course, with the RPM, with the governor arm and all that. But as far as the output voltage, if you don't have that dash put or whatever it is inside potted where you can adjust it, if it's a what is it, brushless or a capacitor, you get what you get, right?
Well, engine speed will change the voltage on those generators.
Okay.
But it's kind of a balance because, say you're at 107 volts and you're running at 60 hertz. Well, do you bump it up to 63 hertz? And then what's your voltage? Is it 110 volts at 63 hertz? Like, if you can't get those two numbers within a reasonable range, then yeah, you need to figure something out.
Let me ask you, Jim, in all your videos, you generally strive for a certain no load frequency voltage versus a load frequency voltage. Explain what your theory is on that.
Well, yeah, I'm aiming for the middle. So the engine, it's a mechanical governor. It's not perfect. When you put a load on it, it's going to slow down. It's going to try to maintain the speed, but it is going to slow down. So I'm looking to see how much does it slow down by. If it slows down too much, then there's an engine issue. It's too much leak down, the valves, something isn't right. So I'm looking to see that, if I apply a 3,000 watt load, generally they lose speed by about 2 hertz, somewhere between 2 and 3 hertz.
So you shoot for 62 no load, or?
I aim for 61.5. I give the engine the benefit of the doubt, and we see how much it drops. Because I'd rather have the engine going slower if I can. Because, most engines, they're rated at 3,600 RPM, plus or minus maybe, 50 or 100 RPM. So I'd rather have the engine running a bit slower if I can. I've had some, you put a 3,000 watt load on it, and the engine drops by 1 hertz. And I've had others, that do quite a bit worse. So I'm aiming for the middle. Utilities can deliver to your house anywhere between, I think it's 113 volts and 127, or somewhere between 57 and 63 hertz. So when I'm with the generator, as long as it's within what the utilities are allowed to provide, then I'm pretty happy with that.
Cool. Yeah, Pate's just texted me. He said you stole the generator that he wanted to buy.
Which one?
Probably a Generac. I know he loves the Generacs. That's funny.
Oh, yeah. The Generacs, they're great to sell. You can sell them any time of the year.
The question here, Junkyard was talking about 400 cycle. I don't know if people know this or not, but all aircrafts run on a 400 hertz system. Just because you don't have to run as much length of wire in the aircraft, it doesn't heat up as much and all that. So, I'm in the aircraft industry. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But, because people say 400 cycle. Well, no, the house is 60 cycle. What's the use of 400? Well, with 400, smaller generators, smaller magnets, smaller motors, and less wire. And that's the reason for the 400 cycle. It just takes up less space and it weighs less. And in an aircraft, of course, you want less weight and all that. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you type in aircraft generator frequency, it's 400. It's been a standard for 50 years.
And that's why even with the inverter generators, their stator, it's 3-phase, high frequency, high voltage output. The generator heads on those are tiny compared to what you see on the non-inverter generators. They actually put the magnets on the flywheel so that the size of the flywheel is the size of the entire generator, because they've integrated the stator behind the flywheel, and the flywheel is the magnets, and that's the entire generator on some inverter generators, like the Honda EU2000. They take up no space.
Oh, our friend Mark Wiley is asking when you're going to get a lift table.
I got one right here. Look. Hold on.
Oh, we got the shop tour now. Hold on.
See?
I've been there. He's got a decent. I've never been in someone's garage that was so tall. He could put a semi in there.
Well, I was actually looking to get a lift for my tractor to get it up off the ground so I can actually have some space in here, but I have a tall ceiling in here. But I did get something new. It's actually not that new.
Oh, there you go. What's the rating on that?
That one, if you double the cable, it's 880 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So I've been
Great
using
for sharpening mower blades on a tractor.
Yeah, it's come in handy a few times. I haven't published this video yet, but I lifted a whole engine and generator head right out, slid the frame out, slid another one in, and just dropped it down. Much easier.
Yep. And one thing people are asking me too is they'll see you spend all the time and effort, especially on a rusty chassis, missing mounts and stuff like that, putting in all the hours to sand it and paint it and this and that. When we work on these things, a lot of time it's for the love of it, not just the money per se. And you're never going to get your hours back, people. You're not. But if you're trying to sell something, rust doesn't sell as good as shiny paint. So
yeah, and it depends what it is. If it's a 40-year-old generator, I'll clean it up. I'll make it look good. Like I did one recently that, it was a nice generator. It was a Honda. It was probably from the early 90s. It had some patina to it. It wasn't terrible, but I'm like, there's no reason to paint this. I mean, it's an old generator. People know what it is. For its age, it's very good. So I kind of take that into mind. If I buy an 8-year-old generator that looks like hell, yeah, I'll make it look better because no one will buy it.
And I know talking to you and seeing your videos too, you stockpile the stuff you're going to use maybe in the future, whether it be motor mounts or even handles and stuff like that. I saw one of your videos, and I think someone else commented, Generac had a recall on that stupid button for the handle. Send me a copy of that because I have my 7500E has that stupid broken off spring-loaded pin. Didn't you have a special fix for that or something?
Yeah, it was a drill and one of those pins with the little ball on the end to kind of hold the pin.
Flare plunger, stubby spring plunger, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But the key is drilling in the right spots. There's some plastic bushings in that handle mechanism, and you don't want to drill through the wrong spot. You might make it so the handle doesn't move at all anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'll send you that link.
Yeah, that'd be cool. William is asking, where do you actually find your stuff? William, that has still boggled me because I have access because I'm not that far away from James. He'll find one down my street before I will. So
it's changed a bit recently. I mean, I find most of my stuff, the easiest ones for me are the ones on Craigslist because there's not that many people looking there anymore. And it's a slower process because I'm away from the home 13 hours a day. So if I see something at 9 a.m. and it's on Facebook, there's no way I'm getting it. Like there's no way. But if it's on Craigslist, it's a little slower. I can send emails or, they send me a reply. Yeah, I still have it. And then maybe an hour, it's a slower process. So I guess my point is you have to be fast. You have to look often and you have to sound not wishy-washy. I mean, these people are just looking to sell their stuff. They're not looking to be nickeled and dimed. If they don't have it at a price that you think is reasonable, you can haggle them, which is fine. But if someone else is offering them the asking price, then they're not going to bother with you. So I try to find good deals, things I know I can fix, things I have parts in or experience in, and I just go for those. But more recently, I bought a generator from someone on Facebook who is a flipper. He doesn't make videos or anything, but he has tons of equipment. So I bought probably 4 or 5 generators from him this summer, and I just bought 3 more from him. So he has access to a junkyard basically. I don't know if he works there or I don't know what the deal is, but he gets a lot of equipment. People are throwing the stuff away. He's there a lot of times when people are dropping the stuff off. So sometimes he gets stories, sometimes he doesn't.
You have to know someone at the dump if you could, because my dump, technically, you're not supposed to remove stuff from the dump. But
Yeah.
what they do is they set it aside and, like I said, I'll bring them coffee, I'll bring them a Danish, this and that, and they know if they see something, "Hey, Kenny," they'll text me, that kind of thing. But you gotta
Yeah.
become friends with the guys too,
Well, that's just it. This guy is friends with the guys, and I'm friend with the guy who's friends with the
Yeah,
guys.
that's
So
all.
he tries to fix them, but if it's anything more than a carb clean or
Mm.
something fuel line,
He obviously hasn't watched your videos, so,
yeah, I don't know if he has. He knows that he knows that I make videos, and his
uh,
neighbor actually figured out who I was and wants to meet me. So I'm sure he's seen at least one of my videos, but
uh
he
well,
doesn't.
pretty soon you're gonna have to autograph the generators when you sell them and charge an extra $20.
Someone mentioned that, like put something on the bottom of the tank so that way when I get it back in 10 years, I can be like, oh yeah, I fixed
Well,
that one in
I would suggest a
21.
decal though, just a decal that has your either your email or your YouTube or something so they know, because I do that once in a while, just in case they'll say, "Oh, how will I remember in a year to call you?" And usually you have, the paint marker on the oil filter and you write the date on it or something, and then they'll know, "Oh, okay, at another 100 hours, call Kenny."
Yeah.
Um, but I do want to do a shout out to this guy here, Small Engine Guys. Great channel. I've been watching his videos. They're putting out a lot of content lately. So check those guys out. They got a really good channel. What's Brucey say? He's got generators trickle in. Mostly repairs, hard to find for sale. Yeah. Well, up your way, Bruce, though, with Canada, everything's expensive up there. It seems that. And shipping stuff, too, really expensive to Canada. What else we got here? Lawnmower lady. What do we got here? Patina is just a nice word for rusted pipe. Yeah, that's true.
Well, yes, but it's how bad is the rust? Does it just look like
Mm.
holes and rot, or is it just
Well,
a
you had
nice
crushed.
pleasant?
Remember, the gas tank was all crushed on
Yeah,
that one. Yeah.
yeah. That one, that generator had no rust. It was just
Yeah.
beat to hell.
Yeah. Let's see, Joseph. What do we have here? Just get the bed. You know what? What's the model that we're talking about, Jim? That's got the stupid arrangement of the framework where you got to
Yeah.
take half of it apart.
I think that was the XG 8000,
Okay.
and
Yep.
the
Ugh,
XG 10,000 is
nightmare.
absolutely no better.
And
It
the
is a
10,000,
nightmare.
that's the one with the V twin, right?
Yeah, it's a V twin.
Yeah. Oh,
To
even
get to
the
the
air
carb,
filter on that is a pain in the butt.
you did what?
Even the air filter on that V
Yeah,
twin is a
I was
pain in
saying
the
try
butt.
servicing a carb on that.
Oh my god.
It's awful.
Oh, yep. Let's see what else we got here. What is
At one point on that XG 10,000, I thought I was going to have to pull the blower housing off to get to the coils.
Mhm.
And the way they had it framed in, I couldn't even figure out how you would do that. I'm like, do I have to take the whole thing out of the frame? And finally figured out the frame's in two pieces. So you can
Oh,
unbolt
really?
it and take
Oh, cool.
part of the frame apart. It's kind of a weird setup.
Hmm. Small engine doing stereo. Yeah, absolutely. Small engine. As I said, I tried a company this week called Vinyl. What the heck? I can't remember the name. Vinyl. Oh, choose. I don't know if Rich is still on here. Mowers and Blowers Online. Hold on. Let me look at. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me look at my email. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds. I'll be right back. And I do appreciate you coming on, James, because I know we had a lot of people asking for Q&A with you. Vinyl Disorder. That's the name of the website. Vinyl Disorder. They have a special now going on where you can get 50 stickers, vinyl premium, 3-inch diameter with your logo on it for $23 and change shipped to your house in 2 to 5 days. So thought it was a good deal. So I'm trying them out. I'll put them on when they come just to show everybody. I did it for my friend Simone, who is hooked on classics over in the UK, and we'll see how they come out. For $23, I figure, hey, YouTube's going to pay for it. Why not? Oh, no problem. As far as a shout out, you guys got a great channel. I do visit it and check it out, people. What else we got here? What is this? Another question here, Randy. Have an ETQ generator that will not start. What should I try before taking the carburetor off? Well, does it even, fire when you squirt in some fluid? I mean, what is it actually doing?
That'll tell you a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, generators almost never lose time.
What is ETQ?
It's just a brand. It's a
Oh,
brand.
okay.
It's similar to like a Duramax.
Okay.
Just a clone.
Okay.
But yeah, I would squirt it with some starting fluid, see what it does, because I'm sure it'll fire up. It's probably a fuel issue.
What I do too, Jim, the first thing I'll do is I'll actually drain the bowl nut on the carb. What's coming out? Is it
Yeah,
water? Is it clear? Is it rust? What do you got in there?
exactly. That tells you a lot. Does it even come out?
Yeah.
Like on the Makunis,
Oh, I hate
the bowl nut is so tiny.
Yep.
It's more like a screw.
Yeah.
And those is pretty much, if they break off, then it's going to be bad, because they usually just break if you try to unscrew them, and no one's done it before.
Hey, Zombie, how are you? Another good channel. Let's see who else we got. Oh, what's this? Brucey, what do you got here? Smaller gen sets under 10,000 amps or watts, Bruce. When you say under 10,000 amps, you're gonna like
That's a big one.
I think you wait. How old are you, Bruce? I think you're 10,000 watts, my friend. Yeah, 10,000 amps. You're gonna burn the town down. But anyway, he's fiddling between RPM and phase are related though. They're basically the same. No, not phase. Oh wait. RPM and phase. Be more specific, Bruce. What's the question?
Yeah, hertz.
Yeah, hertz. Yeah, I can see frequency and RPM are directly related, but voltage, as James, depending on the type of generator, the voltage is related to RPM, and unless you have an AVR, is that correct? Or
yes, the AVR, then the voltage becomes independent from the RPM, or if you have an inverter.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your question, though, Bruce? Anything specific? Yeah, he said watts. Oops. Yeah. 10,000 amps. I mean, that's an arc welder. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
What else we got here? How you doing for time, Jim? I know it's been over an hour. You okay for a few more minutes, or?
I am fine. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I don't want to.
If there's more questions, yeah, it's not an issue.
Okay, great. Thank you. 30 kilovolt or kilowatt?
Kilowatt, probably.
V12.
Whoa, maybe not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, wow. Oh, so it would be a 30 kV. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's like for a factory. Yeah. Holy cow. William, another question here. What size do most homeowners want during a hurricane? What size would you recommend for an average home, Jim, with 100 amp service? What do you think?
Yeah. I'm conservative because for a few reasons, but it depends what you're trying to do. Are you trying to run the central air conditioning? Are you trying to run the well?
I don't think anyone really runs that with a portable, do they? Do you have enough power to do a central air when it kicks on the compressor?
Not really, but people do it. I mean, I buy generators all the time. And one of the lines I hate hearing is, it does a great job running everything in my house. I even ran the central air conditioning. And I'm like, don't tell me that.
I mean, my lights dim when the central air kicks, when the compressor, I mean, that capacitor, that draws,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you need 10,000 watts in your house, don't buy a 10,000 watt generator. Buy something bigger, because you're pushing it right to the edge. The engine, the stator, overbuy for what you need, but also keep in mind, if it's an emergency, you're going to run out of fuel potentially. So the bigger thing you buy, the more trouble it is to keep it going if it's a very serious storm. So I guess the short answer is, I use a 5500 continuous watt generator.
What do you actually turn on though in your box when you have that hooked up? What's actually running? You got fridge, your heat.
I've got 3 refrigerators. I've got the furnace, 2 air handlers, pretty much all the lights. I do not use things like the microwave and the stove. I do not use the central air conditioner. I do use my well, but I have to shut everything else off first.
Oh, wow.
The well, it's a massive surge.
Oh, okay.
Running the well probably pulls 2,000 watts, but when you flip that switch on, it's going to go to 400% or more for a few seconds. It's killer.
Yeah, the beer fridge, that's important.
Yeah. The answer is it depends, but I would say 240 volt if you're going to be hooking it up to your panel. And if you're not hooking it up to your panel and you're running extension cords, then you can get away with less. And there's calculators too. I think Generac has a calculator to determine the size you need if you really want to find out.
Yeah, if you have gas stell, you don't need as much. What's Brucey say here? 5,000 watt. Yep. Hey, our friend Craig, MC Engineering, out there in the Arizona desert. Hey, Craig, how are you? Anyone wants to check out a cool machining channel? He's got a lot of stuff on Instagram. Craig at MC Engineering. So, power factor. What's he talking about? There? Power factor capacitors, Jim. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things I think of when he says this, and they're probably all wrong. But I guess the first thing to think about is power factor when you're talking about powering your house with a generator, because a space heater has a power factor of 1, which means you feed in 1,500 watts. That's what it consumes. But if you have something that uses capacitors and transformers and high frequency switching power supplies, which almost everything has now, those have a terrible power factor. And some generators, that's actually measured, I think, in VA. And some generators, like a Honda I worked on recently, said that the generators were rated at 1,200 VA, not 1,200 watts. So it's just kind of a different way of saying.
But watts is VA, though.
Well, no.
No?
No.
No, P equals EI, right?
If power factor is 1, then yes.
Okay.
But I think it has to do with the power factor. And you can have situations where, say you have a power factor of, instead of 1, it's like half or 0.5. Then you can plug in a 1,500 watt load of things that have a 0.5 power factor. You're going to overload that generator.
Huh.
Don't ask for more.
And that's what? Because it's charging caps and everything else?
It's because the capacitors are kind of functioning off the peaks of the wave, and it requires more power than it's actually using according to the meter. And that's something actually I think, like in the US, they measure for apparent power versus real power. And I know that's something in the UK they've been talking about switching, because you're actually using more power with all these electronics in your house now due to the capacitors and the switching power supplies than you're actually being billed for. And yeah, it's getting beyond my pay grade, but that's the first thing I thought of. The second thing was, if you have an AC or a well, you can get like a soft start system, which is
we use those all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So the capacitors take the surge, and then the generator just charges the capacitors.
Yeah, like a VFD, a variable frequency drive with a soft start. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
We use those all the time on our fans at work to start them up, because otherwise you would just kill everything with the startup capacitors.
Exactly.
They were kicking out all the time. They kick out the breakers every time you start up. So we put variable frequency drives with a soft start, and it just works great.
Yep. People do that, especially if you're going to run that off a generator.
Let's see. What does Cajun say? Switching power supplies are noisy enough. Most everything nowadays are switching supplies.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. What is this one here? Hi, James. I have a 7200 Yamaha. Have you seen a clone carb? I have found boat carbs, $300. Is it a McCuney? Because isn't Yamaha a McCuney carburetor?
They are. Yeah. But the
You
Yamaha.
did a video on the blue one, right? Didn't you do a couple Yamaha?
Yeah, it was the EF 6000, I think it was. And that was an expensive carburetor too. I think it was $300 or $400. And it had to do most likely with the age. I think that's what Honda and Yamaha and a few others do. Like, they supply parts, but when they become rare, they put the price so high that they'll never run out of the part, but no one will ever buy it either.
Yeah. All those parts, Yamaha, Cowie, ridiculous. Mick, I gave him a part number for a fuel pump diaphragm rebuild kit for a Yamaha small generator, similar to like an EU 2000. The kit, I think, was like $30 US just for the diaphragm kit. and it was actually
Yeah.
made for a marine engine, but they
Yep.
used it in a generator. But as far as I don't know of any generic Chinese Mikuni replacements. I don't.
Yeah, let me think about this.
I mean, have you tried rebuilding it? I mean, what's actually wrong with it, Chris? You know?
Yeah, it depends on, I don't know what his exact generator looks like. There are Yamaha clones. I actually used one for an Yamaha MZ360, and it worked
Mhm.
fine, that clone.
Okay.
And when I was working on the EF6000,
He's got an EF7200. He said.
right.
Yeah.
So the EF6000 looked like the MZ360 carb would bolt onto it. The big problem was that, at least with the EF6000, it had vacuum servos and things that were specific to that generator. So if I put a generic MZ360 Mikuni clone on it, it would
You're talking the
physically,
servo for the choke operation and all that?
yeah, it had
Yeah.
a few bells and whistles that kind
Yep.
of the standard carb didn't have. But I think the standard carb would still bolt on.
Mm.
And as long as it would fit within the space of that machine. So you might
Yeah.
check out an MZ360 clone
hmm
carb. It might work. And that's probably $30.
Interesting. What's Bruce? Oh, Alexander's here. Hello, Alexander. From the UK. Hello, Alexander. I'm
Hello.
surprised you got these UK people. It's 3 in the morning.
I know.
Yeah.
I'd
You're
be
a popular
asleep.
guy. All right, let's see what else we got here. What's Cajun say? Hold on. 40 amp. Yeah, because Cajun does a lot of that electronic playing around stuff. Yeah, these power supply, a lot of them do make a lot of noise, humming and stuff like that.
High frequency.
Yeah, what's Stella say? Ohms, West Virginia law. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I went when I was in engineering school. P equals EI, Ohm's law. I mean, we all remember that, or E equals IR, or whatever you want to call it.
I
Oh,
still have to look.
let me ask you though. When you were saying that completely varnished, yeah, don't say beyond repair, Chris. Completely varnished, not anymore. With ultrasonic cleaners and some of the cleaners that we have to go in it. I mean, I know Jim likes
Varnished.
stuff at Harbor Freight that does a good job of cleaning.
Yeah.
I mean,
Varnished will clean up with an ultrasonic. Rusts, no.
yeah. You may want to invest in Jim actually has the Harbor Freight. What is it, Chicago Pneumatic or that
Yeah, the Chicago Electric, I think.
electric? Yeah, they're
Yeah,
what,
I mean,
80 bucks?
I bought that years ago. I didn't expect
Yeah,
it to last more than a
yeah.
year, and
Yeah,
it's
I
still
had the
going.
exact same one, Jim, and I screwed up because it had a plastic tray in it.
Yep.
And what did I fill it with after about a year or so? I filled it with Berryman's, and it turned that
Oh.
plastic tray into Elmer's glue. And it just, I go to take out the carburetor, it's like, whoa, and it
Oh,
just destroyed.
nice.
Yeah, it destroyed the whole thing. So then I bought one of those Chinese, 20-liter, the big one.
Yep. I know. I've been eyeing those, but
The price
I'm
has come
waiting for the
down.
smoke to come out of this one.
Price is coming way down.
I know.
The one I bought for $350 is now $179.
That's
Exact
awesome.
same one. Yeah. So
Yeah, I bought the Harbor Freight one because I'm cheap, but they make much better ones. And the Harbor Freight one works great. I can't imagine what a real one will do.
But you like their solvent, right? That yellow stuff they sell. They just call it
Yeah.
quartz cleaner, right? Is that
Super heavy duty degreaser.
Mm.
That's my most commonly asked question. What do you put
Oh
on
no,
there? Mountain
absolutely.
Dew?
Yep.
Like, no.
Oh, there you go.
Mr.
Cajun
Clean?
does radio and TV repair. Well, Cajun, I got to have you come up and you could work on my 51 Seaberg jukebox. We could
Nice.
play with the tubes and all the cloth wiring and everything else. In fact, I have to put a startup capacitor, a new one in, because it regulates the speed of the motor. So my 45 RPM records are like whoa, 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 because it doesn't. The 45 is around 38 right now, so the music doesn't sound too good. What else we got here? Small engine, 14 permanent acid clean the jet. I don't know what that is. 14K testing solution. Oh, gold. Yeah, gold testing solution. Okay. Yep. Interesting. Never heard of that before. Oh, what was Who was the one that went on there? I don't know if you remember, Jim. Someone went on there and did different solutions and how they cleaned emulsion tubes. I think it may have been, I don't know if it was Mo or Medic.
Yeah,
It was Bob.
I don't know if I caught that one. I know actually, yeah, I watched one of Bob's videos recently, and he
It may
was
have been
using the
Bob.
Harbor Freight solution too. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I didn't know
Yeah,
anyone
yeah,
else
it
did
was
this.
Bob. He had like 3 or 4 different solutions, and he dropped them in, and he just let them sit for hours to see which one dissolved at first. And I think, yeah, that solution went pretty good.
Yeah, it worked well. I mean, I can't say I've done extensive testing. I probably tried 8 or so solutions, and this one was just the least toxic, least flammable, and
Or
most
it didn't
effective.
turn the aluminum black. Like
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't acidic. It wasn't
purple power. I mean, that stuff will eat through your tube.
exactly. I tried that. Yeah, I wasn't too happy with what happened. I even tried the dip. That
Oh,
Musty
chem dip?
uses.
Yeah. Yep.
No, but yeah, it's similar to that. But yeah, it was very aggressive. So I'm like, no.
What's Cajun say again? LA Awesome Cleaner at the dollar store. Yeah, you can get some good stuff at the dollar store. Yep. I guess Henry uses that too. What do we got? Let's see. There's Henry. 14. I gotta look that up though. 14. Oh, where is it? Hold on. I've never. Oh, where's it? Hold on. Small engine guy. Here we go. I gotta look at 14K. I hadn't heard of it though.
Me neither.
14K. Small engine. You got a link to that? I'd love to see what that stuff is. Let's see. William here. Oh, hold on. What advice would you give someone that's going to start buying generators? Yeah, but William, why, when you say buying generators, for total flip resale or for personal use, or, I mean, what do you look for when you see a generator, Jim? You're looking more for just the flippability, right? Or parts?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking. Yeah, I'm looking. Worst case, can I use the parts? I have to assume the worst. Can I use these parts for something? Like, someone offers me a generator that is a good machine, but I'm like, all right, say it doesn't work. I don't have a power head for this, or I don't have an engine that's compatible with this. I don't see these for sale very often. So what are the odds that I get another one, where I can combine two? So I just have to think about worst case scenarios, and I'm trying not to lose money. I don't do this. I only do this as a hobby. So I'm not looking to make. I can't live off it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The amount of machines I fix and the amount of money I make, I can't live off it, but I do try to make money on them and just have fun while doing it.
Yeah, I'm looking on Amazon now for 14K. This thing comes up here. If that's it, but it's a very small bottle though, and I'm wondering if that's the solution. 14K.
I think I have seen
I mean,
that.
it's $10. It's small. Yeah, almost looks like an eyedropper solution.
Yeah, is it
And
very? It's potent, right? Very potent.
very, very, yeah, yeah. Well, it's an
Maybe.
acid, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting. Yeah, check that out.
Be worth a try.
Sure. What else we got here?
Whenever Harbor Freight runs out of their degreaser, I panic. I start using random stuff and it doesn't work.
Yeah, William, I guess if you want to flip, I mean, you do have to know what you're looking at, but I mean, a lot of times Jim will get these deals and he'll throw the ad in $50, $40. How can you really go wrong? In Jim's case, he can use it for parts or even a handle or motor mounts or something.
Yeah.
It's worth
if
more
you're
than
gonna
parts
be
sometimes.
if you're gonna be a flipper though, I mean, I think that's a different mindset. Like if it's a carb, straightforward things. If you have to take an engine apart, then as a flipper, I'd say you don't want to do that. It takes too much time, and your profit goes way down.
All right. Well, we've been on an hour and a half. I know I want to get to bed pretty soon because it's about almost 11 o'clock here. If there's any more questions, throw them up real quick. Otherwise, I'll give it 5 more minutes and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. Henry said, yeah, that's it, 14K. I don't remember that from your shed, Henry. But it's so small, though. I guess if it's just for an emulsion tube or something, maybe. Because Mick was on there today on one of his videos where he couldn't get the emulsion tube out.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
he tried files, and it actually worked on that. I think it was an Atco Balmoral or something. Anyway, he got it working and everything was fine. But what I found, and I put it in his comments, I had a carburetor. It was an expensive carburetor. I don't know if it was a McCuney or it was an expensive one, but I wanted to get out the jet, and someone had stripped out the brass, trying to do it in reverse. I actually took JB Weld. I put a dab on each side of the flat screwdriver, stuck it on, let it bond to the jet, and it worked. I was able to twist it out
Wow.
with a little bit of heat. But worst case, you can drill it out, a 3/8/24 tap and all that. But if you don't have an emulsion tube for a specific carb, you're done, because it's not the main hole. You could always put a file through that. It's the side holes. Those side holes that get plugged, you can't get those from this way,
Well, that's just it too. Like that one had governor issues. Like the carburetor may have been fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of got to put the brakes on too, because a lot of times the problem may have been, with the jet or something else. Like, so you might as well just do the best you can, put it together, and if it works, then you're all set. But I've had a few like that where they've come pre-stripped out, and thankfully the carbs ran fine. But if that emulsion tube ever gets clogged up, then you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah, occasionally it worked for me a few times. Especially when years ago, I used to do a lot of Kohler K series, and the Carter Model N carburetors. No one made the emulsion tubes aftermarket. Now tons of people make them because everybody uses them. But years ago, I'm talking 20, 25 years ago, if you stripped it out, you're dead. You had to buy another parts carb to get a jet, to get the emulsion tube. But now people make so many parts for every engine aftermarket. Now you can get anything. So
almost anything.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I had I don't want to ruin a video I haven't published yet, but got the generator cheap. Unfortunately, it needs a $1,500 part and no aftermarket options available. And otherwise, good generator head, good engine.
Wow.
Needs a $1,500 part.
Tim Freeman, a 16-cylinder Cat diesel. Yeah, that'd be a fun generator. It's funny. Those of you that are interested in the larger generators, most of us are familiar with 805 Road King and his channel. But his friend, small engine Mike, small engine mechanic Mike, he does the big. I mean, he's James Condon on steroids. He does the generators that are the size of a Mack truck. So his channel is pretty cool. I recommend.
Yeah, I like the stuff he does. He does the old stuff too. Like
a lot of
really old hit and miss engines.
Yep.
Old own-ins, old generators. I actually saw him do a new own-in.
No problem.
About a year ago, which is rare. But he hasn't done much this summer. I know he's been pretty busy.
Generator that slows down too much under load. Any ideas? 63 no load, 1,500 watt load. Tecumseh 10 horse. Well, I like Tecumseh, but I don't want to badmouth Tecumseh.
Say no more. No. So 63 hertz no load, 55. Yeah, that's too much. So I mean, there's a lot of things it can be. I mean, Ken knows engines well too. I'm sure he could give you a bunch of ideas, but it could be obviously engine issues, so compression, timing, could be governor issues. I actually picked a generator up. A guy was rolling it to the end of his driveway, and I happened to be driving by at the exact second. So I stopped and asked him, "Are you throwing this away?" And he was. So I brought it home. He backed off all the governor spring tension and used the idle set screw to set the engine speed.
Wow.
So if the governor's not responding, which it wasn't because he basically bypassed it, then the engine will slow down under load, kind of like you're describing. I mean, that is kind of the best case scenario, because that, your engines actually might be okay and the governor needs an adjustment.
I found too, on a lot of the Tecumseh 10 horsepower, the exhaust valves tend to stick. Yep. So you're losing compression on those when they warm up. So you may want to do, I don't know if it's doing that, if it's in that slowdown. What happens a lot when the exhaust valve starts to stick, it'll run for a while, then all of a sudden, and then just die. you know.
Right.
And people think head gasket. No, it's usually the exhaust valve and those that stick. But I would definitely check the valves and make sure, you know, you don't need to do a valve job, or at least, you know, maybe throw some mystery oil in, take out the spark plug hole, throw some mystery oil down there, put a little lubrication in the valve guides, and maybe that'll help you out. But like you said, Jim, you've shown some where the governor linkage is either missing, bent, smashed in, the screw is the wrong screw. There's all kinds of things people do with those governors because they figure, oh, I want a certain RPM and I'll just rig it up with a piece of wire or something to get it right. And
and that's what Nick saw on his video today. I mean, someone zip tied the governor to the fuel line. You know, so I mean, people do crazy things. I actually bought a generator that had water in the tank. It was being sold because it didn't start. It had water in the tank. So I just took the tank off, cleaned it out, drained the carb, hooked up the test, and was ready to go. And then I noticed the whole entire governor linkage was disconnected. And I'm like, what? Why would this be disconnected for water in your tank? And why wouldn't you connect that back up?
Let's see. 3 or 4 cycles, left-handed drill bits, stripped motion too. Yeah, I like left-handed drill bits, I gotta say. So, all right, guys, it's 11 o'clock. I got to get to bed because I got to be up at 4:30. But Jim, I just want to say thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I know our viewers do. It was a lot of fun. And we'll definitely do it again. You let me know when you're free again, because I know you got a more busy schedule than I do.
Anytime in the middle of the night, I'm available. Unless I'm asleep.
Guys. All right, that's up. There's Mick. See, Mick was what? Mick, you're supposed to be working, buddy. What are you doing watching? 4 in the morning, Mick. Go get breakfast. What are you doing? So, Ed, I definitely appreciate all the guys over there in the UK for being up with us. It's actually 4 in the morning over there. So thank you for being up. Hope you didn't do it just for us, but we do appreciate it. Jim, again, thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Everybody out there, we do appreciate you showing up. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not, to both me and Jim. He's got a lot of subscribers. I don't, but hey, what the heck? Maybe you'll see something you like on mine. Who knows? But Jim, take care of yourself. We'll talk to everybody soon. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Ken. Have a good night.
Thank you, my friend.